I up. Which like I day. All right. How do? What's oop? Whatcha? How do Flosstube? Those are words of greeting in England. Since I am attending the Heaven and Earth retreat in Crewe next month, my friends in England requested that I practice my greetings. So there you go, ladies. Hope you enjoyed it. Today's video, I want to talk about my finishes from last year, 2016, and share with you the things I completed and talk about where we go next in the videos. So let's begin. First finish was on March 26th of 2016. I finished the Rocky Point Lighthouse kit. This was for my mom. I don't have the finished product anymore. I gave it to her for Mother's Day, but here it is. I think there's some other folks who are working on this currently, and more power to you. It's a fun project to get done. So Rocky Point. Next finish was finished on April 24th. It was started on April 15th. This is a Heaven and Earth design, mini autumn owl trio, and I actually just did the first little owl who was holding a Starbucks cup. This is the only fully finished, no, one of two fully finished pieces you'll see here. So there she is. My husband used to work for Starbucks. He has changed jobs and is back with Microsoft. So she was stitched initially for him, but he's moved on. So she sits in my sewing room. My next finish was further down here. The King Bothy Threads kit of Kings and Queens of England was finished on May 28th of 2016. Actually was started June 27th of 2015. A reminder of what the chart looks like. And my finish is here. I showed this previously on a video with plans to turn it into a wall hanging. So there they are. It can be done. It can be finished. I learned a lot from this piece about the Kings and Queens because I kind of read about them while I was stitching them, so I'm grateful to have that piece to have worked on and now have it finished to finish. Okay, so many of you know I'm working on the Prairie Schooler alphabet. My plan is to do 3 panels of 9 letters each, and over the course of last year I finished quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the letters. So here's the first panel completed. In 2016 I did O, and then I went down to Q, and then over to P, and R are the ones I did in 2016 on this panel. So that panel is complete. I started on the second panel in 2017, and I have done S, T, U, V, W in 2016. 2017, I have started on the X, but again, not much done. A word of warning for those of you who are stitching this, the letter U is actually a stitch taller than the others. So I ended up just leaving off the top line because nothing was happening there, really. So I just kind of left it off. S gave me fits. I think I talked about that in a video. S is for suck. I had a hard time had a hard time with U. I thought in addition to the having trouble with the vertical placement, I had trouble also horizontally, but turns out I was fine there, so that was good. Was fabulously fun to stitch, and W also was quite fun. X is for cross stitch, and that one will be a little bit of a challenge with the just keeping track and making sure that of spacing on that one. So that's worked on throughout the year. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through each one individually. Let's see. So my next finish was September 25th. I finished Damask Square. This was started on February 6th. Here's the chart as it comes. And I did this on Damask Square. 16 count Shimmering Seas was the fabric. And the floss was Fiberlicious Cotton in Electric Blueberry. I've talked frequently about how meditative this one was to stitch, with just one color and watching the color changes and moving through this piece. Really just a meditation on stitching, because you had to do each stitch individually because it's an overdyed floss with variegation. It's just nice to slow down with this piece and just enjoy the stitch for stitching's sake. My next finish was October 7th. This is Rainbow Parfait. I started this on December 30th of 2015. This is parfait is kind of ubiquitous. You all have seen this before. I loved the shapes in this pattern. I did not care for the colors. And at the time, I would probably have to admit I wasn't ready to work with silk, the thinky dye silks that were required. So given that, I made some changes. I picked out a variegated Threadworks cotton and took the colors in that variegation, used some Weeks Dye Works and some Gast and some DMC to create the piece that I have now. I then chose beads based on the colors, and here she is finished. What surprises me in this one is how much the yellow stands out. Usually you think of yellow as being a quiet color, but I think that yellow is every bit as bright as the darker DMC 3740 and 3726, I think. And the beads, which match. Let's do a close-up here. And the beads. Yeah, so you can see. And here she is, all complete. I'm not sure what I plan to do with her yet. She doesn't match anything in my house. I just liked the colors. So maybe she'll go to my mother's house to live. Oh, and she's a she. What I want to do next year sometime is do a video on how I chose the colors based on the Threadworks, and talk about how to go about doing that for folks who maybe have been wanting to learn but who haven't quite had the courage. It's kind of fun to watch, and it's kind of, anyway, I'll talk about that more in the video. My next finish was on October 21st. This is my third Heaven and Earth finish in my lifetime. I attended the Heaven and Earth convention in October, prior to the convention, we were given a chart that included this design. We were to stitch the butterflies and our name. And then once we got to the convention, we were given a skein of ship's manner floss in order to stitch the heaven and earth, the Hadecon part. So I finished that at the convention, started and finished the convention. Well, no, because I started it before the convention. So there it is, my little name tag. So, yeah, that would be my third Heaven and Earth finish. I have a fourth Heaven and Earth finish. October 29th of 2016, I finished Sample Letters W by Selina Fenech. I have shown this in a previous video. I initially thought W was for wings, but Marika from Real Life of Me, hi Marika, told me that W is for wyvern, and as usual, she's right. As usual, she makes perfect sense. So here is my wyvern. Actually, this will go for my son. This will be framed and put in my son's room. I also used the election challenge to finish this young lady up. There was stitch something red, so obviously red. There was stitch a female, and obviously she's a female. Stitch a wall. Well, there's W all over this chart. W wall over this chart. And then by that time I think I had actually finished. So I stopped the challenge there because it had helped me accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. So that's my wyvern. I did a series, actually a couple of series of charts. The first is Ben Creek Snapper, Welcome to Our Home series. And I think I showed these in one of my first videos. These 4 little guys, 5 little guys. You can stitch them. They have actually a border chart where it puts them all in a row with a border around that you can buy from Ben Creek. But I did not like how they had the order that they had them in. It didn't quite make sense to me about how I personally would welcome someone into my home. So my plan is to stitch them separately, frame them separately, but put them like down a wall as an entry wall as you come in, or maybe even have them as pillows on an entry table. Anyway, this is all of them stitched up on a piece of 32 count Lagana from Picture This Plus in the color Ale. So, hello. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Will you stay a while? Make yourself at home. On the Make Yourself at Home, I left off the roof just so it would be the same size as all the others. In the chart that you buy, it has the roof. And if you're going to put them in as a line, as a banner, they make room for that in the banner. But I think they have that one next to last, and I think it should be last. The last thing, you want to know if you're going to stay a while, and then, if you are, make yourself at home. So anyway, just my thought on how those things should go. Those I worked on during the summer while my husband and my son were at Scout Camp. While they were at one of the high adventure Scout camps, Northern Tier, which is the border waters between Canada and Minnesota. They went on a canoe trip there, 5 or 6 days canoeing. They did 80 miles in the canoe. They would canoe for a while during the day and then camp for the evening, and then the next morning they would get in the canoe again and continue on and continue on. And they just hopped from lake to lake through that area. It had an amazing time that both of them have fond memories of. So while they were doing that, I was stitching on a prairie schooler project. I have these 5 prairie schooler charts. You've seen other folks do these. But while I had them, I thought, gee, they're all the same size. They're all 75 wide by 97 high. They could be put together a la the prairie schooler alphabet and turned into a wall hanging. So the question was, in what order should I stitch them? Well, first I thought of chronological order by publication date, and that would work fine. But then I decided, well, you know, it could tell a little story. So what I thought I'd do is show you the finish and tell you the story of what's going on. Let's start at the beginning, not at the end. So first, we have Miss Fortune, and she is divining that her friend needs her to come over and help her cast some spells. On all of these, I've used Anchor Black, I have used Weeks Dye Works Autumn Leaves for the orange, and I have used 3865, the white at the end of the DMC, not 5200, but the one next to it. Is it 3865, 3866? Something like that. You guys know for sure. You'll be able to tell me in the comments. The charms I added on my own. They're not required in the chart at all. In fact, the chart has stars. Left off the stars, added some charms. These are charms I had in my stash from my mother-in-law when she passed away. I was given some of her sewing supplies, and those charms were in there. So she has determined, Miss Fortune has determined that her friend needs some help. So she gets on her broomstick and she's going to go over to meet her friend. This I added a little bat that I purchased. The chart actually has a stitched on bat, but I added the charm. So she flies across the sky and gets to her friend's house. And she's going to knock, knock on the door. Charms are the stars, which I purchased for this piece. Then her friend says, "Who's there?" And the charms are little faces they're holding. In the pattern, those are supposed to be keys. Couldn't find key charms. There are up there. I didn't feel like ordering them. I used some from my mother-in-law. I thought the little faces are actually kind of cool. And then she gets to her friends and they start working on the potion. And this is just kind of watching over them. Because what is that supposed to be? Oh, it's another bat. It's supposed to be a bat. So all together, they look like this. This is 18 count Aida. Nothing special, but it sure adds to the finished piece, I think. Just a scrap piece. I mean, it's not terribly wide, you can tell. But I cut it off probably for a heaven and earth design. Anyway, I'm kind of proud of that. It was an experiment and it turned out well. So I'm quite pleased with those folks. These patterns I think will be passed on in a giveaway later this year. 2017. I'll pass these on to someone. Fun times. Okay, last finish of the year, finished project, was finished on December 19th. It was started in July. This was a piece that I would carry in my car or carry to the beach or so forth, but I wanted to finish this with the cross-stitch finish line Mill Hill Sal. I started out last year not wanting to do any of the Sals. In 2015, I did quite a few Sals, and I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them a lot. 2016, I decided I was going to stitch what I wanted to stitch, when I wanted to stitch it, and do my own thing, go through my own process. But by the end of the year, I found myself, I felt like I was missing out on the fun that folks were having. And so I, especially watching Sherry Burkett and the Sals and the way she organized her work and how she kept up with the Sals and she kept up with things that she wanted to finish. And she so impressed me, and she seemed to be having so much fun with these that I wanted to get back into doing them. And so I used the election challenge to finish the W, and I used I did some of the weekend rushes with cross stitch finish line, and I did this Mill Hill finish for the Mill Hill Sal in cross stitch finish line. This is Winter Stag. It's a kit designed to be done on perforated paper, but I don't care for perforated paper personally. So this is 16 count 10 Aida, but I really like it. Because it's 16 count, some of the beads are crowded in, but not too bad. It was kind of bad. There were beads designed to be in the ears and on the muzzle of the deer. I put them on and looked at it, didn't care for it, and talked to some friends, and we all agreed that we should leave it off. So I just put in some ecru stitches there instead. And I think it turned out just really, really spectacular. I think leaving those beads off enhances the elegance of the piece, in my opinion. Probably if it was 14 count, then the beads fit better. It would be gorgeous with the beads. But my preference was to leave them off for this piece. So those are my finishes for 2016. I already have 2 finishes for 2017, which is kind of impressive, but I want to share those in another video. There also are some pieces that I started in 2016 that I will be carrying over into 2017, and I want to show those in another video. But for now, that's where things stand as far as finishes last year. Now it's your turn to go out and stitch. Stitch like the wind. Bye.